Welcome to the Wild Creators Podcast, where we explore creativity and the art of creation. I'm your host, Aaron Embry, and together we'll embark on a wild creative ride and dive into the hearts and minds of some extraordinary creative humans who are making unique marks and shaping new worlds around health, wellness, art, and spirituality. Let the adventure begin. In today's episode, we have a truly remarkable guest joining us on this wild creative journey. I'm excited to welcome raw and spicy truth giver, mystic light bearer, Kristin Swint. Kristin is a beacon of intuitive insights and wisdom, and her unique perspective and fearless approach to showing up in her work are inspiring countless others, including me, to embrace their authentic selves and unleash their full creative potential. In this episode, Kristin generously shares ideas around self-care and trusting our inner guidance on the creative path. Without further ado, let's welcome Kristin Swint to the Wild Creators Podcast.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Let me amplify the screen so I can see your beautiful face. There you are. Okay, hi.
Hello. I'm so excited to reconnect and catch up. And I'm so glad.
I know.
I'm glad you were open to this wild new idea. Not so new. It's been a work in progress for a while, but
yes.
Yeah.
Good. Well, it's good to see you back.
Yes, I am ready to be a little bit more visible. I finally think that is such a work in progress, and I'm constantly inspired by you and so many others who are showing up and being seen, and so it's time to show up in new ways. And I couldn't think of anything I'd rather do than talk to friends and share your work and kind of talk about your own creative process and self-care process, which for me they're kind of tied together for sure.
Yeah.
And then give you a platform to share. Well, we're already getting into it. We're getting right into it.
I like to be interactive with people. I like to talk with people straight up. So if I have something to say, I turn the camera on and I do it. And that's how I love to do it. And so the website was really an advertisement for me, but I think my social media platforms are the advertisers. They're the personality, they're the passion, they're the grits and the stuff. And so my title is still Mystic Light Bearer, although on Instagram I changed it to Kristin Swint so I have two platforms on Instagram. Pages. I have Kristin Swint, which is what I want people to know me as a reader, not just Mystic Light Bearer, the person behind the channeling gift. And then for my products, it's Mystic Light Bearer, but because Instagram is so weird sometimes, when I opened up my new page, they're like, oh, you already changed your title, you can't do it. So I had to put Mystic_Light_Bearer, and I haven't changed it over, I just left it. So I have two pages. I have one for my readings that I work with most of the time, and then one for my products just from Etsy. Okay, and so that's the Mystic Light Bearer is more the identity for your shop and the product, the actual physical products that you're selling. Yeah, because I wanted people to know me more on a personal level and on TikTok it's still Mystic Light Bearer, but it comes up when I go on lives as Kristin S. Oh, great. Okay. I love that. So, and on Facebook, I've still got my business page, Mystic Light Bearer, but I also was posting on my private Insta or my private FB page. So. Okay. But you're really just showing up more as Kristin and as me. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And owning your gifts and making it. You are branding yourself. You are becoming the brand of Kristin for sure, and sharing your gifts through that platform of you. Yeah, and although my title Mystic Light Bearer speaks about who I am, my readings speak more. Mm-hmm. They give more. They're it, and I just felt like my name. And I've seen other coaches do it that way too. They're just their names. And I'm like, I think it's time for me to just be Kristin Swint because I am a light bearer. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. But I want people to know, that's Kristin. Kristin does that. Absolutely. And that is the work you want to do more of. I mean, this is the work that you feel most inspired to do right now is
I'm guessing is the readings. Is that the
readings?
Yeah.
Yes, it's always been the readings. I mean, the Etsy store came up because I didn't have a whole lot of clients starting out publicly a few years back. Right. And so I needed something to supplement. And so I started my Etsy as a way to, kind of get the ball rolling. But I don't think that was I love my oils and I love my sprays and I love my kits. But the readings was where I started like 30 years ago. It was connecting directly to source, and it was helping, and it was the counseling aspect, and it was the getting into the nitty gritty and people coming to me and saying, I don't know how to do this, guide me through this. And I would just pull info. When I started, I didn't know that I was channeling things. I had no idea. I was like, what? Okay.
But people knew that you had like access to some information that they didn't, or things were clearer to you than.
Yeah.
Or you had answers.
Everybody has access to it, but some people don't want to learn. They don't want to, and that's fine. So they go to somebody, or I'm a reader, but I can't read for myself. So I have other people that read for me. Right. Because if I'm vested in a situation, a lot of people come to me and they're so vested in that situation. It's a huge emotional thing for them. They can't see past that. It's so 3D and it's so locked down here, they can't see past it. And so they have to have somebody that's completely out of the situation that can plug in and give them that guidance and help them to know that everything's okay. Just let's do this way, and let's do that way, and let's try this instead. Right. And it's hard to give ourselves that, So
true. But you can show up and be like that mirror and offer that deeper insight, so people can, so you can reflect that back to them, and they can find their own selves within your insights and these gifts that you're sharing with them, of understanding and deeper connection and seeing the things that they cannot see.
Right.
So there is this reading aspect, this sort of guidance aspect to your work, and then you're also giving people the tools to be able to learn how to find that within themselves also. If they want, if they want, because like you said, not everyone has that interest to be able to do it for themselves. They would rather connect with someone else who can help facilitate that process. And but there is also a teaching aspect to your work also. But is that something that you're wanting to do more of, or is it really, if you could grow any one aspect of your business, well, I don't know that it ever is about one aspect either, because part of the joy for me is having more than one thing, more than one offer, more than one gift that I share. So I don't know if that's.
It's a mixed bag. I love to connect with people and give them the guidance, but then also my most favorite part is when a client comes and sits down with me and I'm like, let's work on a spell for this, or let's help with this aspect. And I get out my herbs and my oils right then, and it's organic. And then I'm teaching them, this is why I'm gathering this, and this is why I'm gathering that. And so, the teaching aspect, I absolutely love. I don't know if I can call it teaching or if I can just call it mentoring. I don't know. Like, I've been mushing and mulling around with the concept of the mentor and the coach forever, Right. But I love to, I think it's all about empowerment.
Right. And guiding them through that process of whatever journey they're on, and just being a light bearer on the path.
Right. And showing people how they can be the light bearer too.
Right.
It's not just me, it's all of us. And how do we use these natural tools? How do we use the herbs? How do we connect with the oils? How do we connect with spirit through those tools? And how do we get rid of the fear of connecting with those tools? Because there's so many other dogmatic backgrounds who have said you can't connect through the natural elements to get to God.
Right.
This says that's absolutely not true, because God is in those elements. He's everywhere. He's infinite. And then the little fun part of being like, and here it is in your holy book, right there.
I do love this aspect of your work of sort of like creating safety around these things that a lot of people have this sort of fear around, because it is something that, because of those belief systems that we were all, I mean, I know I was raised with and taught that access to the divine had to happen this way and only this way, and to think that it could happen outside of that, and like the fact that you are helping people destigmatize a lot of old ideas about tools that are very relevant today and that we can all benefit from, if we can just allow that opening of accepting the possibility of a different kind of relationship with these tools and ways of experiencing God. And and I love that you make it a safe space. Like, you are helping, I think, destigmatize it and create conversation that just feels normal. I mean, you're just normalizing it in a way that feels like really refreshing to me, as somebody who is definitely, still in the process of releasing those old patterns and ways of thinking, and thinking that it has to look a certain way, that, or that these tools are not for me, or all those.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and that's one thing I think I really appreciate in the way you're showing up, is that you make it feel safe and approachable, really approachable. That's the word I was looking for. So, I mean, that sounds like it's intentional, because of part of your own path has been, because you have been on this path of finding and utilizing these tools yourself. And so I'm guessing it is something that you're consciously thinking about as you're sharing your work, and being really visible and vocal, and just normalizing it and making it feel really approachable. I don't know if you're intending to do that, or if it's just part of what's coming through you.
I think it's just what I do. I don't have an intention. I know lately my videos have been more reading, and so my intention is to pull from what source gives me, or hopefully for the use of the greater, the collective. But yeah, I want to make it feel comfortable for people, especially those who are coming from the dogmatic systems that are like, this is bad, and she's not pulling from a pure source. That's a big one. She's not talking to God. She's not. We all have that connection. We all have this gift. Some of us just don't want to utilize it in that way, or some of us just want, they have a different way of connecting to God. And a lot of what I find that I do in my channelings is not much different than what I've read in the Bible. It's just not. And there's such duality in it too, because there's so much that, if you want to go in this route, the Bible says, well, Satan can mimic, or Satan isn't even really technically used in the Bible. Like, the dark energy can mimic, and they do, but what, I sat there and I tried to break all this down. I went through my spiritual crisis of, can I do this? Is it okay? Is God okay with me connecting to the earth elements through this? Is he okay with me connecting to him through this route? And forever, like 7 years, not even kidding you, I struggled with being a what I deemed at that time as being a Christian witch, or being a Christian naturalist, or something like that. And what I struggled with the most was the concept of other Christians coming to me and telling me, you're not really talking to God. He doesn't really talk to you, or this isn't, these are just entities or energies that are fooling you. They're they wear masks. And then I started having experiences with dark entities. And what I found was they don't bother to try and be your friend. They just come straight up to you and be like, and just boom, the energy. And then I had to learn how to fight against those energies. And I called in those angels and I did that work. And I'm like, these guys don't mess around. Why would they want to try and befriend me? And try to make a client feel uplifted and empowered and to feel more connected to God than they did before. If they're just doing this to just kind of, in the end, come at me and be like, actually, we're just demons trying to befriend. Why? No, there's absolutely no point. If I'm talking to a darker entity, I would have known by now, because there's absolutely no, the guidance that I get for myself and for other people has never been, it has never not been of peace. It has never not been of love. It has always been direct. They always work for the highest and best of people. I only get what I'm supposed to get for that person. Mm-hmm. They are very truthful. They are very adamant. They have never let me down. They have been there for me when I couldn't be there for myself.
It's interesting. Something that just came up for me as I'm hearing you speak about this process. It feels like you have learned that power of discernment within yourself. And that's really what you're helping other people understand, that you can tell the difference in your body when something is coming from truth and when it's not. You can actually tell, you can feel that difference in your body as it's coming through. And it sounds like that has been and that is really, and I think about some of these other tools that you teach, tarot and divination and these other tools that kind of help you feel the difference in your body between truth, a yes, what is true and right and highest and greatest good, and what is not. And I think, that's this journey that we're all on is sort of learning to tell the difference within our physical vessels of what is true for us.
Exactly. That's right. Exactly. And it's the difference of knowing, it's the lesson of joy or fear versus love.
Exactly. Right.
Love is all joy. It's all joy.
Right.
And fear doesn't exist in love. It can't. There's only one or the other. And fear is all doubt. It's all heaviness. It's the other part. It's the dark. Right. And although we're all made up of that and we have to juggle that, that's our lot, as humans. We have the dark and we have the light inside of us. We have the power in, with that holy aspect, that holy spark, that Holy Spirit, to discern between or to extinguish the dark within us. Mm-hmm. And it's really just, it's feeling it in your body. When I do a reading and I feel that connection with the client and I'm going through and getting all of this info, I feel my light rays, I feel them rays, I just feel, and it's like, you ever go watch a movie or go into those, gospel churches, where they're getting pumped up and they're clapping and they're feeling it? Right. That's exactly what it's like. I kid you not. It's it's amazing.
It is a raise in vibration. It is, because it reverberates within you. And yes. You can't not express that sometimes. It's going to come out somehow. Yeah. And to me, that is creativity, right? I mean, I feel like that is the creative process. It's just allowing that to move through you. And whatever you express in that moment is your creative process. And some of us are, creating things that are helping other people. And that's why these conversations are being born, because I love talking to other people who are I feel it. I'm honoring it, I'm allowing it to move through me, and I'm creating with it. And that's exactly what you're doing. It's expressing in so many exciting ways, and that pumps me up to see how it expresses in other people and other people who are wildly creative, and just honoring that creative flow that wants to move through us. I think we are. That's one of the characteristics of being human is we are creative. We have to express ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And and I love how you're expressing yourself in this world.
Thank you.
Yes. Do you have? Let's talk a little bit about self-care, because that is something else I feel like is part of the conversation for me, because it keeps me in touch with my physical vessel, so that I'm more aware of what feels right and what feels wrong. And I think once I started having an intentional self-care practice, it was really, a more of a conversation I could have with myself. That was part of that discernment, part of that conversation. So what does your self-care look like? You talked earlier about how you kind of take the summer off and you're just not focused as much on work and on production during the summer, because it is part of your self-care. Is there anything else? Do you have other routines or other things that you feel impacts your creative expression?
I work a lot with my altar. So what you see behind me is my altar space. And I know you can't see everything there because
I don't actually see you at all. I don't see your video at all.
Wait, what? Oh, no. Have we been doing this the whole time without me there?
Yeah.
Well, this behind me is my altar space. And so this is where I do all of my self-care. I meditate here every morning. I run through a whole entire routine. I'll light incense and offerings for my deities and for God, of course. And I go through a whole grounding ritual. And then I work with my prosperity altar, making sure that new offerings are laid out. And my products are, if I have products up here for underneath that, this guy right here, I'll charge those up as I'm doing it. And working with all my prosperity tools and gadgets that help to send that energy out to the ethers. And yeah, this is my working space. I do my videos here when I click on and do a talk or a reading. Sometimes I'll do it here, and sometimes I'll be sitting in this chair over there just to kind of, give people a different perspective. But that's my big self-care, is meditation for me and working at my altar space. Other self-care is I do therapy weekly. I have a counselor that I work with, and she helps to work through a lot of those shadows of self-doubt and insecurities of being seen, heard, and, all of those things. What else do I do? Oh, singing and dancing, I think, have always been my self-care that I didn't realize until recently, that it is a huge vibrational fixer for me. It's like an instant button. Like I could go and I could get into my shadow and be like, I can't pray this out. Like I don't want to pray right now. I don't want to. But if I turn on music and I just start moving, it's the hit button for me.
I love that. Same.
Yes.
It's a magical tool. It's one of my favorite creative tools, and definitely self-care tools for sure. I love that. And you can move a lot of junk out with that.
Yes. Yeah, and music is one of those things where it speaks for us. It's like I'm a big fan of love songs, because love is huge. Like I love romance and I love love. So like if I'm, the sad songs and then I like the grunge songs, the I'll kick your ass songs too.
Really get pumped up.
Yeah, exactly.
You can curate it, your intention with that. You can kind of like, I know when I'm working out or something, I need the aggression. I need
some Rob Zombie today.
Exactly.
Some Rat, Metallica.
I love that you're not afraid of the dark, Kristin. Are you?
I'm not. I sometimes am, though. People can trigger me and tell me you're not really that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody today came to me and said, you're not salty. And I'm like, what? Okay. But it triggered me. It got me hard.
The fact
Because
that they
I
couldn't,
sort of value my salt,
right? And so somebody couldn't see it, and then you were salty.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
because a lot of people, especially on social media, I come on professional and I come on pretty calm, and I'm still getting used to fully coming out and maybe cussing a little and maybe
Right.
being off hinged a little bit, and that's hard. Like it's hard to balance coming out as raw and authentic and like looking at your audience and knowing somebody in here is not going to approve. And that, as a sensitive, that's one of the things that I work through in therapy is you have to not pay attention to the one that might throw you a tomato when you're on the stage. You have to keep working through it. And it's hard. That's hard to do that.
It is,
So it's like
especially as an
switching.
empath, because you can
Yes.
feel those projections, and you're definitely very aware of those projections.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am
Yes, that's the
curious.
hardest thing.
I am curious about your human design. Do you happen to know it? Do you happen to know what your human design aura type is?
Human design, meaning like my birth signs and all that other stuff?
Well, it is related to astrology. It is this. Maybe we'll have a whole other discussion after I inquire about it. But it is astrology is an aspect of human design for sure, but it's also I Ching, quantum physics. There's some other things baked into this. It's just another tool, like astrology, very much like astrology. It's just another way of reflecting on ourselves. And I was curious because I'm really I've been on my human design experiment for 12 years now, so I'm always curious about seeing people through the perspective of their chart. So I'll touch base with you again, and I'll inquire about your birth information so I can find out your chart, and maybe we'll have another conversation next time. But I'm always curious about people's charts.
I'd never heard about human design until a couple years ago. I didn't know it existed.
Yeah,
so I have no idea what my human design is.
Okay, I was just curious. I had to ask. We'll circle back to that. Maybe another. We'll catch up with you again sometime. And
I'm curious to know what it is too.
Yeah,
like I wouldn't even know. Like I don't even know what that is. So
there are so many websites where you can get free charts. You plug in your birthday, birth time, and birth location. So very similar to other chart readings. And then it's really super overwhelming. I remember the very first time I pulled up my human design chart, which it's so multidimensional, so much information in this chart. I mean, it's kind of like looking at your birth chart. You're like, for the first time, it's a lot of information in that chart. And same thing with human design. There's a lot of information. And so I didn't even have a reading from a human design professional for several years after I first met my own design. I just sat with it and did my own research, which I found out later was part of my design. I'm inclined to do my own research by design. But I'm always curious to see people through that lens. So we'll definitely, once if you end up exploring it, you'll have to share so I can, I like seeing people through that lens. But, that's just one of those tools that has, in the last 12 years, become increasingly more present and helpful. But we all have our tools, definitely. So I like hearing about people's creative tools and their self-care tools, especially, and then decision-making tools too, especially as we're, as I'm doing the self-care and I'm opening myself up, meditating, you receive ideas, you receive inspiration in those quiet moments of self-care or meditation. What do you do with your ideas, with the insights that come to you? Do you know which ones to take action on? Do you know which ones are meant for you right now? And, how do you navigate the inspiration that you receive in those moments of?
It's kind of different at any time. Like I'll get go moments during the day when I'm not doing self-care, when I'm not doing meditation or whatever. And I just know when I'm supposed to go. It's kind of hard to explain. I know when I'm supposed to go to the next step. And sometimes I know when I'm supposed to stay on that stone and kind of hover. And sometimes I get stuck. Sometimes I stay on the stone a little too long and they're like, dude, go. And I'm like, but that stone's a little wobbly and I can't believe you even want me walking over there. And they're like, just trust me. If you fall in the water, you can swim. I'm like, okay. I'm going to call. Yeah, I know. My daughters. So yeah, sometimes I'm afraid to move to that next step. And but usually my guides always work on my time. So if I choose to stay there in that place, then I do, and then I'll move usually when I get the guidance to move, or when I get those inspirations, I'll usually follow through with it. If I can get the fear out of the way, I follow quicker than if the fear is there.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Because the fear will fool you every time. That's what it's there for. And I also think that fear is a gift to us as well, because without that fear, sometimes it's a survival thing to keep us alive, essentially.
Sure.
And so it's just navigating true fear, if that makes any sense, versus false fear, know?
Right.
And when anything is always divinely connected, like I feel inspired to do this, or I feel inspired to do that, or I usually take action. And it just depends on when it comes in, Right.
And that's part of the practice, the creative practice, or I call it the creative practice because that's, the lens I'm looking through is it's all creative. But the fear is definitely a big, participant, a co-creator in the process. But I do think it is a necessary, I feel like it gives us the friction, like that we spark off of. There has to be some resistance. There has to be some sort of something to push against, I suppose. In this world of duality, we need an opposite. But it is learning about navigating that and learning to use it instead of being, suppressed by it, I suppose. And I think anybody who's showing up at all in any way is a master of navigating the fear, because it's always there. It's always there.
It's always going to be there. It's just a part of how things are. And and it's just a matter of a lot of it is faith, I think, it's just when you feel that. But when you have inspiration, there's always excitement behind it. That's what I've learned. That is key. If it feels good and you're excited and you get that zing behind it, it is divinely led. No question about it. I don't even care what it is. It's divine. Unless it's hurting yourself or somebody else. That I would say, okay, well, that we need to maybe. But if most of the time that divine guidance is always, it's always joyful, and there's no room for hurt in there. You know what I mean? Right.
And that's when you know that it is something that, well, it feels good to take action on those things too.
Yeah.
Now, a word that just came up for me that, do you always have like perfect clarity on what that next step is? Or sometimes it feels like I have inspiration. I know it's like a packet of inspiration comes, and sometimes it's just so overwhelming, like, because I'm not always sure what the next step is. And it's been my experience sometimes when the next step is not clear, it's just not time for the next step. It's not time for me to take a step if it's not clear. So I wonder about that clarity piece. And I think that's where also having that self-care process helps create that clarity. And I guess it's all tied to that same process of, feeling that zing and following the excitement and not letting fear drive the car. There's a quote I love from someone. I'll have to remember. I'll have to put it in there. But they said, fear can be in the car, our vehicle, but we can't let fear drive. And I think that's really what you're talking about, is like letting it be there, but not letting the fear be in control, and then following that excitement instead towards the next step, whatever it may be, or whenever it may be.
Yeah.
And that's
that's one thing that I tell my daughters when they're embarking on something new is it's okay to be afraid, but it's a whole other thing to let that fear stop you.
Right. I love
like both of my daughters were dancers at one point, and one of them, my oldest, was in Taekwondo for a few years, since like 4th grade on up to like 7th or something like that. And she would go into these competitions where she was supposed to, they call it sparring. She was supposed to fight with people, and she's so sweet. And she's like, I don't want to do this, Mom. I don't want to fight with people. She's like, I'm afraid I'm not going to do well. And I'm like, you can be afraid, but you just push through it. You have fun. You go and you do what you need to do. And she would do great every time. It was just a matter of her seeing that she could have, it's okay to have that fear in the back seat, just like you were saying. Right. Just don't let it stop you, and most of the time fear won't even drive. It'll drive it, but then it'll like slam on the brakes.
Right. You're not going anywhere.
Right. And so it was my daughter, the same thing. When she was in dance competition, right before she would go on stage, she would get this fear creep up on her. What if I'm not enough? What if I'm not good enough?
Because that's really what I'm like.
One thing that I learned from another one of her dance teachers that stuck with me is push through the fear and be your full on capacity on stage. If you don't feel like a freak, you're not doing it right.
Okay. I love that.
And I've heard other actors and actresses say that too. If you don't feel it, like from here, if you don't feel like you're like, oh my God, like I feel like this is like I'm not doing this right, like it's so out there, it's so big, I feel freaky doing this, then you're not full, you're not totally out. You know what I mean?
I love that. There's such truth in that. I was just pondering this other, I have these little mantras that I hold on to, and someone said once, and I remembered it, and I come back to it, that the thing that makes us weird as kids makes us great now. And I'm like, I've got to remember that. Like, how can I amplify like all my weirdness, the things that made me the weirdest kid, and like own it now.
Exactly. Like those kids that you see, like just like you're walking through the mall and everybody's doing the same thing, and we're all walking down the thing, and then there's that one little 4-year-old who's like they take down and they go into circles and they start doing this, and that's the kid that I see, and I'm like, you have it.
Yes. Hold on to that. Yes. Yeah.
That's the spirit of God. I do believe God is a complete freak show. And that's it. That's the little kid running through the mall going, oh my God. And getting all worked up over pretzels or Superman or whatever, and just like sprinting through the mall. And the mom's like, oh my God, you need to tame Johnny down. Like Johnny can't grow up and be that person. But look at who is it, the actors that we see that are like that? Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So and he's one of my favorites.
Absolutely does it so well, and is like this shockingly awake person now, and probably because he was so open and free, and he could really just own his weirdness, and never lost touch with that. It's a gift. It's a true gift. It's a great example, I think. And you too. I mean, I feel like you do show up so well. I mean, in full. I think you are rocking it, and it's always such a joy to see you show up, and it is an inspiration for me, and you are a light bearer for sure. And I'm so grateful for everything you're creating and how you're showing up and expressing and being a mom, because I feel like that is part of your creative expression too. And because you are, spreading that light ahead of you and ensuring that your daughters are going to be doing the same thing and empowering them to do the same thing. So I love that.
Yeah, that's my goal. I remember when before they even got here, I made a prayer because I wasn't sure if I was going to get pregnant with my first or not. Mm-hmm. And so I was praying one night and I said, it's always your will whether I have a child or not. But if I do, that child will not be part of the mainstream. That child will be exactly who they are, and that child will make a difference on this planet. I didn't want, and my first child is not she's not in the box at all. Like totally not in the box.
She's building her own.
Yeah. And they both aren't. Like they're both their own people. And that was what I wanted. I didn't want two kids to come in and just be like, well, we're just gonna do no, I didn't want that. I wanted them to make it a better place, to help people, enlighten people, and be free to be themselves, because I've seen so many people who were like, well, I can't show this, or I can't show that, or I can't show this because the planet or the society or my culture or whatever says that I can't be that way because I function better on their rules. That's bullshit. Mm-hmm. Completely. And it just makes people sad and depressed and lonely. And so, yeah, that was my goal as a mom. I was like, and how to raise a kid and to have the manners and the poise and the grace and be fully out at the same time. I struggle with that myself. And I feel it's hard to parent that. It's hard to navigate especially depending on the kind of culture that you're living in. Like, because I'm living right now in a very conservative town. How do you do that? And parent, and show them a little bit of conservative. Everybody around them is conservative, but they're going to be out and they're going to be their full self and have the manners still and the politeness and the salty and sweet, I guess is what I'm getting at. You know what I mean?
Right. It is this duality that you're trying to parent from both perspectives and guide from both ways. And and hopefully, have a happy, healthy, joyful adult. That's their trajectory. But
right.
I think you're rocking it. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what that would feel like or entail because I'm not a parent, but I can appreciate, the dynamics of the world and that duality that exists and then having, tiny humans that you're rearing and now young adults and, but the fact that has been your intention, to have happy, healthy, joyful kids that become joyful adults. I don't think you can do, you could do worse. Thank
you.
And and it's a whole other creative process. I mean, it is the ultimate in creative processes.
It is. It's
bringing and nurturing life. That is what it is. I'm doing the same thing in my own way with the only legacy I have to leave behind is what I'm creating for the world. And I'm nurturing it and birthing it, but without the pressure of, it having its own will,
right?
Their own unique perspectives of the world. So, and that's a whole other dynamic of co-creating at that point with this other being and nurturing their own perspective and unique wills that I cannot imagine. So
The will, yes, the will is the hardest. How do you allow them to freely express, but discern kindness? If they get mad, healthy expression. It's hard. I don't even have words to describe what it's like. It's just, and for me to know, like, I remember reading parenting books and literally sitting with the parenting book, like when they're 4 and you're not sure what to do and they're just, they're in a fight or whatever. I'm like, I'm just going to carry this with me and like read this book and be like, say this, this, and this, and this. And then I literally tried that one day. Like, I had this printout on my fridge and I'm like, when these things happen, I'm going to run through this checklist. There's no checklist.
Right. That probably had to come from within too, like to know what to say. It did. You just had to follow your own inner guidance. And the fact that you had, that trust within yourself, or you've been developing that trust, you've been learning how to parent over these years. I made
a lot of mistakes too, though, sure. With everything. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've said things that I shouldn't and done things that I shouldn't, and it's human.
Yeah.
How we are. And that's the shadow, and that's how I think when those things happen, that's when we can open up and say, I still love you, and that always makes me think of Jesus and his work, because he would love the lepers first and the prostitutes first and all of those people that were not in the box and were not, he would love the people that, to show that there is no, what do you call it? I'm losing it. There's no there's no judgment. We're all people.
Right. It's and like there's no hierarchy of good and bad in terms of like that from that perspective. From that perspective of Jesus. He wasn't making those judgments for sure. So yeah, I love that.
Jesus loves your shadow. That's the thing.
Right. And if you can parent like Jesus would have parented. That's what you're doing. That's what you're saying. Like, you're bringing Jesus into the process, which can't hurt.
I look at Jesus, I used to think, oh, he's so perfect and he never did a thing wrong. And then I remember that little scripture in the Bible that talks about the whole turning of the tables in the Jewish temple. When he got pissed off, and he walked into the temple and he said, "You are defiling my Father," and he turned the table. It's not like he just walked in and just flipped the tables. We're just gonna tip that over. We're just gonna he like flipped the tables over. Like, he was pissed.
He and expressed that.
Yes, and he expressed that, and he was still and that was not his shadow. That was his expression of, we're not doing this from source. That was his passion, if that's the right words to express it with. So when I think of him being so pure and holy and whatnot, and he never did a thing wrong, and how a lot of us think, well, there was this concept back in the late 90s of what would Jesus do? Yeah,
I remember.
It was on bracelets. I remember. Yes,
WWJD.
And it was all it was all like, well, do the right thing and Jesus got pissed.
Right.
And he had passion, so healthy pissed offness is okay.
I love that. Yeah, that it's not always just expressing, that sometimes truth comes through as anger too. Truth is sometimes is fire. It is. It is fire.
Is a healthy motivator. It really is. Like, I find that I can sit like we were talking about earlier, sit on that stepping stone for a while and be afraid to move off of it, even when I'm guided. Come on, Kristin, it's time to go to the next one. It's time to go to the next one. And I'm like, but what if that stepping stone is like wonky and it's not going to hold me up? But if I get pissed off enough, I'll jump and I'll be like, I can fucking swim. If I fall in the river, I don't care.
Right.
You know, like, and then that propels me onward. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It is a great igniter of action for sure.
Yes.
Especially when we've been stuck. Yeah. And especially whenever it feels like, you can't not take action because in that moment you're flipping tables.
Right. And
it's
truth too.
Right. It's truth too. It's probably, it's a very firm, loud, fiery truth.
It's a very firm, loud, fiery truth. Yeah, it's real. And
right.
and it, yeah. So
wow. This has been so good. I could talk to you for another hour, but I would definitely want to respect your time, and I want to be sure to that you can share where people can find you, and be sure to I know we talked in the beginning, but in this space here, I want you to share specifically where people can find you locally. I know a lot of your work is in McKinney, Texas, and also online. If people could book with you from anywhere, if you have a reading or, but some of your offerings are locally based, but some are definitely. You can work with Kristin from anywhere. So I want people to know where to find you and connect with you locally and virtually. So,
well, let's see. Most of the easiest way to connect with me is through social media platforms. My personal number is listed on all of those, or to DM me. Since I don't have a website to go and book, they can just go on my social media platform, any one of those, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Send me a DM, say I want a virtual reading. I offer both virtual and in person. I work every Saturday at the Groovy Coop if you're local in McKinney. And I have pamphlets and business cards over there too when I'm not working. That are Mystic Light Bearer, so it gives you a little bit of information about my background, who I am, and the services that I offer.
Great. And I'll put links also, so people can find links also attached to this episode.
But the easiest way for them to get a hold of me is just to DM me through any of the social media platforms. That's how people have been doing it,
So just send you a message. That's easy.
Just send me a message. Don't be afraid. People do it all the time. They're like, hey, I need a reading. How much do you charge for this and this and this? It's the easiest way to get a hold of me. I book with you personally. You can talk to me right away. It comes through on my phone. We can have a conversation. I've even done not even appointment readings. Sometimes it's not something that I generally do. I like to have my readings in appointment style because I never know, I could be out with my kids or whatever.
Right.
So, but if it's urgent, and I have had clients that are urgent, I can pull through and I can get the information through you in a quick text, and I can send you. I've had clients come to me in crisis situations, and I've been able to just channel and turn on for them and give them what they need. And so, but I'm available for personal readings in my home, virtually or in person, Tuesday through Thursday from about 10:30 to 8. I like to go all the way to 8 o'clock because a lot of people work during the day.
Right.
So it gives you a chance from 6 to 8 to get in touch with me if you want to.
That's great.
Some Sundays I'm available, but usually that's my family day. So if it feels like an urgent situation, then I can do a reading for you. And then Saturdays at the Groovy Coop, and Mondays and Fridays I'm working at the Groovy Coop, so I'm not doing readings that day. Those days.
Well, that gives people a lot of options, and I'll make sure to link to all of your social media sites so that it'll be attached to this little interview, and people can find you easily that way. And I'm so grateful to you, and I'm so glad you are open and willing to show up with me in this little co-creative space and share a little bit more about who you are and what you do and all of the light you're sharing and how you're showing up to help and guide people, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. So thank you for
Thank you.
entertaining my curiosity today to hear more about your perspective. And I always love chatting with you anyway. So I'm glad that we were able to have this sort of like, intentional conversation and share more about you. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
It has. We'll do it again. I am curious about your human design chart, so we'll do this again. I'll have a season 2, and maybe you can come back again.
Okay.
We'll do it again.
Yeah. Sounds cool.
Well, have a great rest of your week, and
thank you.
We will chat again soon, and I will definitely share. I'm not sure yet. So that'll probably be the end of the record. Whatever I share, but. At this point, since it's still brand new, I'm still figuring out the timing. If I'm going to do release one a week, or like save them all and release them all at once. I don't know whether to Netflix it or Hulu it. In terms of like, do they all come out at once? In terms of like, the style of, am I going to have like a season? Right now, I'm picturing it as like a season of like 10 interviews, and maybe I'll do one a week, or all at once. I don't know. But as soon as I have this, I don't know. Do you have an opinion? How do you like to receive content? Do you like to have like
I like to be
a table
enticed.
Oh, okay. So I
like to be enticed. So
okay.
Like maybe one, and then like get people's curiosity, and they're like, "Ooh, I wonder what's it," or maybe just a few. And then like
a little appetizer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like maybe 1, maybe 3, and then like release, like a little bit at a time, like, because I know for me, like on Netflix and stuff like that, when they release full seasons, I know that I'm just like, I'll just blow through them in like a day or 2, and then there's nothing left, and then
it's all done. Yeah.
But then at the same time, if there's like a little bit, then I'm like, and it's consistent, and I'm like, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen next week, or then it keeps people interested, and it keeps them, because otherwise I'll just blow through it really quick. But
that's true. Okay, I kind of like that idea of kind of having like a little teaser, and then having a couple, and then because also I don't know at what frequency people are going to sign up to do these interviews. So I may have 1 a week, I may have 2 a week. And I feel like it will pick up once people see one episode, then they'll be like, oh, well, that was fun. Hopefully it was fun and not scary, and kind of, hopefully it was fun.
Right.
People will see like, it's just like, we're just chilling. Just hanging out, chatting about God and stuff.
Right. Exactly.
And maybe the creative process and self-care, like all the fun things that I like to talk about. So it's fun to me anyway. Hopefully it'll be fun to others. So, and hopefully it will introduce your work to, it's a growing, diverse audience. So maybe it'll open up some new people to you and your work, and some other folks too. So who knows? We'll see. But thank you so much again.
Thank you.
And we'll do it again. It has. And I hope all is well. And hope you'll have a great rest of your week. And
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, Kristin.